Good afternoon, everyone. Now, without wasting much time, I want to speak from the angle of Lagos State. Really, the effect of COVID-19 came when the directive came from FMU to close down all schools. It was a sudden and unexpected directive, and so immediately we had to come together, the heads of the various agencies in the education sector, that what do we do and how should we go about it. One thing stood clear, that the present administration of Mr. Babajide Olúṣọlá Sanwo-Olu has emphasis on education and technology. As if he knew that COVID-19 will be coming and that we need to leverage on technology. As a result of that, looking at the limited fund in the state, we decided to launch the private-public partnership program, and that really paid off when the schools were closed down, because we had to start the school at home with the support of the PPP and with the little funding from the state. And we had partners coming to support, like Wazobia FM, giving us airtime to run school in the home, like Wazobia Max Television, Nigeria FM station. So we have to disaggregate this LTV for primary and Eko FM and Radio Lagos for primary, Nigeria FM for junior school, then Wazobia FM for senior school, so that there will be a clash of interest. We had to identify teachers that could deliver the content. Initially, we thought that it would be what they can prepare at the studio. But with the total lockdown, nobody could move from one end to the other, and it brought up another challenge. So we decided to be doing everything from home. The teacher will prepare the content, we send to some of us, we will edit, we will proofread, and we send to the studio. And that was how we were airing all the programs during the lockdown. It had its own challenges, but we thank God that one way or the other, we were surmounting and we continue to review. In addition to that, we had organizations like First Bank and Co supplying devices for our schools, customized devices. And we had MTN giving them data. So when that took in, we started sharing to schools as another avenue to learning. We also looked at it that some areas that we start, we decided to get radio, they procure radio, we had supporters, even the first lady of the state also supported the council to provide radio for our schools. And we did all that. But despite all that, the challenges were there. Even as at the resumption, there were several engagements with stakeholders at various levels to make sure that the major needs of the schools are made available by the time the schools are open. I want to thank God that when the schools were opened last year, we did not have any record of any child or any incident of COVID-19 infection in our schools. So when this second wave came and the schools were locked down again, we realized that we need to leverage and strengthen the provisions already made. Lagos State and the schools, we make sure we provide hand wash in all schools, make sure that water is running in all the schools. The state government provided sanitizer, liquid wash, and even face mask. In addition, parents also provided. Schools also used part of the running cost to make some of this provision available. In addition to that, the schools had to be decontaminated through the Ministry of the Environment and the Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Agri, Ministry of Health, to make sure that all the schools were fumigated before resumption. And we thank God that the airport yielded positive results. After all that, we realized that when the schools were reopened, some of the children did not come back to school. So Subeb launched a project called Project Zero. They did a survey and they discovered that over 22,000 primary schools did not return, which is so alarming. And what we did was that Project Zero, with the support of the state government, the program was launched, and children that are having one issue or the other, not coming to school, were restored back to school because they provided school bags, notebooks, writing materials, socks, everything that they feel the child will need to settle in the school. And this, with this project, some of the children that refused to come started coming back. The same thing at the secondary school level, the data has been carried out to really determine over 33,000. So with that, we now realize that apart from the issue of COVID-19, there are other things that needed to be done. We need to improve our infrastructure to make the school learning friendly to the students and the pupils. And so with the support of Mr. Governor increasing the budget for Lagos State Ministry of Education and the Entire Education Family, we had this infrastructural renewal for schools to make sure that schools are those that needed additional classrooms are being built, those that require renovation, furniture, and things were going simultaneously to make sure that at the time many of them are resuming, they were happy to see that they are resuming into a new environment. This also helped Lagos State government to have many of these children back. In addition to that, we realize that with the population, coupled with the population, and obeying the COVID-19 rules like social distancing and so on, we decided to introduce blended learning and staggered learning for our schools. The junior ones to come twice a week and the senior ones to come thrice a week. The days they are at home, they will use other channels for learning. The teachers will give them homework to do, and some will even monitor. There were so many WhatsApp groups. We have all the social media channels, YouTube, Instagram. We put everything all together to make sure that one way or the other, a child is learning. I will say here that it wasn't 100%. And so we looked at those that are underserved. What can we do? We have to call on the community leaders, the parents come together. If the community leader has a generator, let us plug radio in your house. Let the children come together and be listening, at least to start from somewhere. Because in such communities, maybe they are having frequency issue, internet problem, and so they couldn't access all the provision that Lagos State has put in place to. Then the inclusive units too. We have some NGOs that actually partner with Lagos State to make sure that they too are not left behind. We also have the quality assurance of the Lagos State Ministry of Education, giving training to teachers, school managers, both public and private, to make sure that they are actually equipped to handle the return of these children, because many of them are coming with so many challenges, some are traumatized, and so on and so forth. So all this put together has helped us so far. But we believe that the future is technology, and so we must not rest on our own. Presently in Lagos State government, you will see the government is laying new fibers all over, and they are going to connect government schools and all government facilities to make sure that internet is made available to our schools. We are also looking at the issue of solar energy to power our schools. So I want to believe that a lot still requires, and I believe that we will continue to work and to improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for that very impressive presentation. We do appreciate it. Now it's time to look on the side of Prof. Prof, please. The question is, to what extent are we ready? Are we really ready for school resumption or school opening to full capacity, or in a way that we can have effective learning at this level?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I don't think the answer is neither here nor there. I don't have there may be a sign of readiness.
Your name, sir?
My name, I've been introduced to Professor Lange Adibayo from the State University. That's been to me. I said the answer is very not here. There may be readiness of the back, and there may be readiness and the lack of readiness of the other part. Especially if you take into consideration the disruption that COVID-19 had. Can look at that from many angles. First, at the economic level, businesses were closed down, schools were closed down, less money was available, and at the individual level, students are not so forth. And so there are disruptions, both at the economic, political, technological, and even at the cognitive level. And COVID-19 pandemic throws new challenges to us at the four domains, at the level of the four domains of education, at the level of curriculum, in terms of the nature of formal and informal interaction, vis-a-vis achieving the purpose of education. In terms of curriculum, in terms of assessment of students, because new ways of assessment must begin to take place. In terms of delivery of knowledge, imparting knowledge, and in terms of, so look at all this, for example, you would know that the challenges must also introduce new type of functions of education. For example, the most important function of education is learning function. But taking into consideration all the affected dimensions of education, dimensions that have been disrupted, technology, economy, politics, and so on and so forth, we must also begin to look at how do we bring up leaders who can be taken care of in terms of all these dimensions. And of course, the people who are going to impart knowledge themselves, to what extent have we trained them? Yes, Lagos State has been able to tell us how far it has gone. But the danger is throwing the responsibility of this challenge to the teacher and adding to the burden of the teacher. I've seen places, especially at the higher level of education, whereby they have gone online and they have thrown the responsibility of the cost to the lecturers. For example, the lecturer has to have computer, he has to buy data, and he has to also learn, because using internet as a means of imparting knowledge is a recent development in Nigerian university, indeed in Nigerian educational system. And this becomes additional stress for the teacher. It also becomes additional stress for the pupil, and for the pupil especially, and for the students. Much more for the pupil, because we are looking at basic education. To what extent is the new form of learning or the additional form of learning, since we are going to involve with online learning, online teaching, and individual teaching, the online teaching, to what extent is it going to challenge the self-efficacy of the child in terms of ability, especially the rural child who may not know how to use the computer, or who may not also know how to use the phone, and who may live in an environment that's been overrich with the technological facilities that need to be used in this new form of education. So it deals on the government and the provider of education to try to provide these facilities, both for the teacher and for the student, and to take care of the emotional aspect of it for the child. For example, the in-remote learning, which involves actual presence of pupil and teacher, which of course take care of the social dimension of education. Online does not provide that again. And of course, we know that a lot of character building takes place when teacher and students interact. So I don't know, people education system must begin to try to develop packages that will also be able to motivate the child so that he will be self-motivated. In terms of, even when you are using online teaching method, you must be able to use that online, must be able to do that. It can simulate the normal traditional method of interaction and imparting knowledge. And these are things that must be provided for us to say we are totally ready for resumption. But be that as it may, resumption is an ongoing process. Indeed, all what we have said has implication for the future, and it's a continuous process of discovery, self-discovery in education to be able to meet these challenges. Thank you.
Please, a round of applause for Prof for those wonderful comments. The fact that it's an ongoing process and there are strategic things we have to put in place. That's of the physical infrastructure and emotional infrastructure. Please, a round of applause once again. Now, I'll then call on our next presenter, Mrs. Rebecca Sako-John, to please make our presentation. Thank you very much.
First wave and presently some roles too. But I'll quickly mention some of the steps that were taken by the Kaduna State government. It set up a number of committees to deal with the issue. One of them was the Risk Communication Committee that provided information which a lot of the civil society organizations took up in running campaigns in the communities, on radio, running jingles, using infographics. Now, the Risk Committee also appeared on radio and spoke to the people about the COVID preventive measures. It also helped to fine-tune some of the messages that people were using. I know as a fact, our organization was running COVID intervention program. They went through our IEC materials and helped us to fine-tune it, translate it into different languages for the use of people. Now, the Kaduna State government, after imposing the lockdown, went ahead to start a radio program, but the radio program was only for uh, students that were about to write their YA, the SSC examination. Now there was no way to know if the students were following the radio program, and also now that they've rounded up the radio program, what has been the impact of that radio program? Alongside the radio program, private schools were running online lectures or classes for their pupils. That has some implications for parents, especially those who are unable to feed, who are unable to raise funds for the data. They were online, either some were using WhatsApp, including primary schools. They were running either using WhatsApp to send lessons or assignments to pupils, or running online virtual classes. And I know that some schools actually went ahead and held exams using the virtual learning or the online classes for their pupils, but that was restricted to only the private schools. Now, pupils in the public schools were left behind. And also, in terms of the virtual classes and the radio programs, those with hearing impairments were also left behind. Coming to measures that were taken, I would say that it covered only those who were in the private schools and left behind those in the secondary schools. But looking at measures that were taken for the reopening of schools, there was the contamination of some of the public schools. And I will tell you, in Kaduna State, they used some of the primary schools in Kaduna metropolis for markets, because the markets were closed down. So they designated some markets for people as a neighborhood market for people to go and buy groceries. So there was a need to decontaminate these schools before or ahead of the opening. And it is not known up to now if all of them were decontaminated. Coming to the opening also, the schools were provided with hand washing equipment like buckets, sinks, but some of them didn't have running water, and some still don't have running water. I remember we went to Wakafri as part of our COVID-19 intervention project, and I saw one of the secondary schools. They melted this soap, bar of soap inside a bottle. That is what serves as the soap for washing the water. So some schools didn't have running water. You have to go and fetch, and so sometimes the water will not be available to wash hands. Teachers were provided with face masks, I think 2 each. But that is as far as it went. The pupils didn't have masks. So that is an issue, because children may have high immunity, but when they come to school and they mingle with their fellow pupils, and you don't know where they are, you cannot even control them to stay in one place. So we don't know what they can have. They could have cold, and the parents will think it's just a common cold or a flu. But it may be common. So the aspect of saying pupils are being tested, like in a few tertiary institutions, is not there. The testing of these people, even the adults themselves, parents have not even been tested. So we are talking about testing, or even that some of the schools have health facilities to check these pupils when they start running schools. Have running nose, cold, or flu. I know that in the private schools, if you bring your child and the child is running a temperature or cold, they send you back home. But the extent to which that happens is not much. But what I would say about readiness for the school to continue or to resume, they've resumed in some schools in Kaduna State, the secondary school, but it's only for the senior school, SS3, SS2, and JSS 2 and 3. We have a problem of over-congested classrooms. Now, they have, the government has given instructions that pupils should be spaced between 1.5 to 2 meters. And where in some schools you have up to 100 or 200, even with the staggered resumption, we may not be able to accommodate pupils. So the Lagos example, where they have some going twice a week and thrice a week, might be a good example. But I'm also thinking that maybe we should start looking at things like homeschooling, where maybe the teachers will come up with a kind of curriculum for the public schools I was talking about, not the private schools, because they have made their own arrangements. I'm not saying that they have the space and they are able to meet up with the measures, yes, but possibly to keep the pupils in the public schools engaged, because they roam around at home. Maybe if the the public school teachers could come up with some notes that parents could take on, and parents may not be at home, but some person who is at home that could use to get these people engaged. If that had started from the beginning since last year, maybe they will not be rusty. And then we should also be thinking about the safety of these people once they resume. That has not been taken care of. I know the issue of improving the infrastructure is a long-term one and needs to be faced, and I think the keynote speakers talk about that. For us in Kaduna State, we know that possibly this year they will start improving on the infrastructure, because since last year, students have not been able to complete the procurement process for delivery of new infrastructure for extension of classrooms or improvement on the classrooms. They are just rounding up the first set of procurement, and so we might begin to see some changes. But for now, I know that if the forward, that is face masks, the observing of social distancing, and all the other measures are taken into consideration, the other aspect that needs to be taken into consideration is the issue of the well-being of the children, having the right nutritional value to their food, which means extending palliatives to parents who are unable to cater well for their children. That may get us ready for the resumption of children at the basic education level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you now for that insightful and context-based experience in this aspect. Thank you very much. Now, lastly, let me welcome our next presenter, Dr. Oluremi Ganiu Chokwen, who happens to be the immediate past chair of Superb in Lagos, and I'm very excited when somebody mentioned the fact that although it's the immediate past, but we could see synergy between the past and the present. And in fact, I particularly look at the right when I heard that, because in Nigeria, unity is usually the problem. In fact, past and present used to become enemies. So in their own case, please give them a round of applause for them. I just want to just tell us, in terms of your own experience, so are we actually ready? What's on ground, and how is the best approach for us to move on from here? Thank you.
I must say, in my own opinion, whether we are ready or not to resume schools is debatable. You would agree with me that when announcement was made, there were arguments here and there. Even at the top level of the society, that is, even at the House of Reps. I know at the time the members of the House of Reps were, you know, agitating that resumption should not even take place, should not be talking about it. And the implication is that, in their own opinion, they feel they are not ready. But some of the challenges that have been impacted on education amongst other factors, developmental factors in Nigeria, did not just happen now. Some of these things have bedeviled even before COVID-19 came. Problem of accommodation for both pupils, students, and even staff. Problem of teaching staff. Problem of provision of nutritional meals for children, among so many others like that. All of these have been in place. I think COVID-19 is only a pointer that pointed to us again that we had these problems, we did not look into them, and it is now, you know, incumbent on us to see that we look into them. Well, even safety of the children, safety of the children, security of the children. Before COVID-19, there had been population explosion in most schools, particularly schools in urban areas like Lagos State, for example, that I know very well. Population explosion is there. And because of the nature of Lagos State, even children come all the way from neighboring states, and neighboring countries, apart from Lagos State, neighboring states. And Kaduna, Rivers, and most of those states like that, you know, have the capacity to accommodate, you know, people from various places. All of these are the problems that, again, have reared their heads among some other ones that are new, you know, during this COVID-19 COVID. And it will continue to be if they are not taken care of. Because of the time limit, I will just mention the fact that, yes, all we need to do is to look into the safety of the children. That is one major thing that agitated minds of people on whether we are ready to resume or not. Even private schools. I had a situation where in a private school where we have over 500 students and only 28 resumed. Because parents were not really, you know, sure. And the corollary effect of all of this, particularly in our rural areas and so on, is for children that are, you know, of the adolescent level to go and get married on time. And then the population of out of school children will continue to, you know, that's one thing. Again, the problem of kidnapping, banditry, and so on in so many states, it has become a big problem in the Southwest now. And I wonder how you want me as a parent to allow my child to go to school in this situation. So the problem is now for government at all levels to look into the problem of, you know, safety of the children and even the teachers and other members of staff in the various schools that are around. Even in other states, even in states where there are no kidnapping and whatever, there are these state supremacy problems. Whereby one state will be coming to fight with another state. I mean, one state will be fighting with another state. The bad boys amongst them will be fighting. Some will even be imported from another state. And all of this, will militate against the safety and security of students, pupils, teachers, and the rest of them like that. So government definitely, and all stakeholders have a lot to do. Problem of accommodation is another one. We are talking of self-distancing. And in a school where we have so many children in the classroom, yes, we have the problem of children not coming around now. But with time, they will be coming. And when they come, and we still have that problem of accommodation, then I don't know where we are heading for. So I think government has a lot to do. And this will bring me to the issue of states to bear. I mean, state governments to their chairman to be on the neck of their state executives, the governors, to assess their funds in UBET, so that they can, improve on their infrastructure without sentiments attached. I come from Lagos. I know that we do a lot, even apart from accessing funds from UBET. Government would also put state funds to improve on infrastructure, on gates, and so many things like that. And in spite of that, we still have this problem of accommodation because of population explosion in our schools. Problem of providing meals. That is one again that has been brought about by COVID-19. Most parents now would beg for 2,000. I know a lot, and you would agree with me that it happens. Some people will ask you to send 2,000, even if it is 2,000, you can send to them. Even 1,000. Out there, imagine those ones that are begging for that, and they have children going to school. How do they feed such children? This is one thing. Before now, I know a few states have keyed into this school feeding program. But this COVID-19 has sort of, stopped it. And so, government has to find a way. I know in Lagos State, government was giving palliative to parents because of this. I don't know how many other states are doing that. Kudos to Lagos State government for doing that. They should keep on doing it. And so many things like that. The issue of security is very, very paramount. Just about yesterday, I was reading online about this problem of good boys. They call them. I wonder why they call them good boys. Bad boys. From Onola. I'm from Lagos Island, and that is the area where it is happening. From Onola, between Onola and Agaralu, fighting, killing. I wonder, the schools around that place, how would children go to school? So these are the issues, and this is a general phenomenon all over the country. I think we have a lot to do if our education must progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful approach, particularly the issue of security also at this time. Security of lives and property, and also security of our children during this era, in terms of providing the necessary and the challenges. And I also like the fact that you mentioned that we have to take advantage of all resources brought by all stakeholders in a way we can assist. I think that has been coming on since morning, that we cannot leave it to a particular actor sector. It has to be all inclusive, and also the issue of assessing funds where they are. Thank you very much, sir, for that very insightful, excellent contribution. Now, is join once again to appreciate the panelists with a round of applause. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Now, it's time for all of us to contribute now with a raise of hand. If we have people in the house who want to also talk about our readiness to open or to continue to open as well. And I will start with please let everyone that want to contribute indicate with a raise of hand. If you have things to say as it affects our readiness to open, please.
Thank you very much.
Please hold hang on, sir, please, so that we can manage our time. Thank you very much, sir. So please let us pick number. So we are starting with the organ here. Then you are number 2, sir. You are number 3. You are number 4. You are number 5. You are number 6. You are number 7. And 8, 9, 10, and that's all. That's all. One minute. Please don't present paper. We know the issues, and the issues are going to be teased out from here. Are we ready? What should we be looking at, and what should we not be looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The point, please. Don't give us background or scenarios. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. For us in Lagos State, we will say we are ready. We will continue to do the strategy we have put in place. We started with leadership. That is the political will to ensure that we are ready for the resumption. Part of what we did with that is to invite the Ministry of Health so that we can get evidence-based and data-driven information. We should be able to talk from a point of knowledge. That is why the state government, established or constitute a committee that we call School Resumption Committee, and look at all the scenarios and look at all factors that can, either support or against the school resumption. From the evidence we have been able to gather, we saw no correlation, any positive correlation between school resumption and the surge in COVID-19, the virus. So we were able to come up with that idea that we should do. That is number one. Another thing that is working for us in Lagos is sincerity. We are very much determined on what we want to do. And I can see that in Kaduna too. She was able to tell us what the strengths and the weaknesses. And those are part of the thing we are looking at in Lagos State. Just about 3 or 4 days ago, we gathered ourselves, the Ministry of Education and other education family, to look at the results of the last WAHEC. We sat down, we x-rayed, we look at our strengths and our weaknesses to show where we are going, to know where we stand and how we can propose solutions. What are the causes? We look at the causative agents and the approaches we can use to correct all the anomalies. We identify COVID-19 play a major role. But are we going to sit down painting hopeless and helpless picture? No, we need to move on. Another thing that is working for us is commitment.
We want to use power. Another
thing that is working for us is commitment. Commitment on the part of the all stakeholders. They have been able to support us in whatever we do. That is why we need to continue to appreciate organizations like the HDI for this wonderful initiative. Thank you very much.
Please, the second person, please, quickly 1 minute, because we still have another session after this.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to talk about the issue of school sanitation and hygiene education. It has always been there before, but we need to reinforce it because because as we are looking to about solution, we should be talking about preventive measures, reinforcing the issue of hand washing, all this skill-based education that as a part and parcel of the curriculum, we need to reinforce this at this critical point in time because, like we've been told by UNESCO, it is a new normal. We should live it with. We should see COVID as if it is malaria and plan the education sector accordingly. Then, apart from that, the issue of is a pity that Dr. Judith Giwa, who is not here.
Please, make your point.
The issue of community-led total sanitation is also very critical, and trying to actually find out from survey the ICT penetration and the issue of how can we reach out. Who will television, the particular part of the state that will be able to reach out through television or through radio, like this is Adela just said, we will need to do that so that will inform the appropriate technology that will be necessary. Then there is something that we are